All right, so this morning is climate chaos theory or something?
Climate chaos, yeah.
Yeah.
And I, when I put it together, I thought that this was important, but I'm not so sure as a futurist that I really believe that.
Hmm.
Because as a futurist, it seems like the most probable future is business as usual,
Yeah.
mostly because of the entrenched interests
Yep.
and I guess you have to call it corruption in our system. Um, we've talked a bunch about government and we try to avoid getting off into politics, but that seems to be the most likely direction, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is with, I mean, it's always been that way, hasn't it? I mean, since the Dark Ages,
Well, yes,
wealth and
but
defense and war.
there have been trends. Um,
Yeah.
we have managed to avoid a third world war.
Well,
It, it's
maybe,
kind of surprising.
maybe. I think we're in soft World War 3.0. I'm not even calling it, you can call it 2.8, whatever you want to call it. 2.8.1. I don't know where we are.
Well, and it's been going on since World War II between the United States and Russia.
Yeah,
So,
which really goes back to 1918, 1917. That was the seeds of World War II, and then the war to end all wars, and all that.
yeah,
Um, but here's the problem with doing things for climate change, environment, etc. Is that California can do all they want. They can't. They can lower the world's emissions by 1/10 of 1%.
yep,
And the US could be totally 100% green and it wouldn't put a dent in what we experience. A small dent, but not
it would
noticeable.
put a small dent.
Small
Yes.
dent. Yeah. Well,
Um,
a small dent is you got to start somewhere. When you're banging out a fender, you start with a small dent and you keep on banging.
right. But we have um, a history, and climate chaos, if you will, is sort of an average of all of the past history. And so while we're not, a, we're still a major part of pollution, of
Yes,
the greenhouse gases that are upsetting nature, if you will.
substantial
And,
part.
and that's happened very fast compared to the history.
Well,
Nineteen,
but China and India are doing it at a 10 times that rate.
well,
And second world countries, their argument is, hey, you guys got yours. You polluted the planet. You
yep,
became rich.
yep.
Aren't we entitled to that also?
Yeah,
And the answer to that has to be at this point, it depends. Because if we continue with business as usual, it's going to spoil it for everybody.
Yep.
So we're saying at this point, fossil fuels are okay. Fossil fuels are not a problem. Climate change doesn't make sense. And the rest of the world is saying, you guys are gotta be kidding.
Wait a minute. When you say we say, who is the we?
The United States, as a policy, has said, drill, baby, drill. And he got elected.
Well, we are currently saying drill, baby, drill, but yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
no, but pretty much that has been the case. Yep. Uh-oh, H-Tom has a new beautiful photo. What the hell? What a handsome dude.
Yeah. Well, he'll come through and
Yeah,
tell
but
us
we'll see the
something.
real, the un AI'd version of H-Tom. Try to.
We all put our best foot forward whenever we have the chance.
Yep. Well, and oh, I'm going to circle back something I didn't get to mention about sea level rise in Florida. Florida ain't going anywhere. The whole state. It's 400 trillion year old limestone, but Miami is a special case, and they are sinking Miami. And how do they know that? Well, they can measure it within centimeters from satellites, and it's sinking, and the water is rising, and they got a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miami's especially South Florida.
That's kind of symptomatic because most of the major cities are on the water
Right?
because when they were built, that was the cheapest way to trade.
Yep,
And
still is in a lot of ways.
prosperity goes with trade.
Yep.
So, and we have made a little bit of progress in the last, 200 years in terms of prosperity associated with our use of energy. We talk about fossil slaves. Well, energy isn't just available from fossil fuels. It depends on your technology.
A hamster wheel generates power. You get enough hamsters going.
Right. And if you think about manpower and horsepower, we've measured it for thousands of years.
Isn't it funny that we use those words? Horsepower. It's in every car ad you see today.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Yep.
And that's how we think about getting work done.
Hmm.
That's how we measure work, is through energy and power.
And it has been true since the simple machines and levers, as the British say, and et cetera, et cetera.
Back to the Greeks,
Yeah. Back to the Greeks.
thousands
Absolutely.
of years.
Thousands of years.
But it's not always been well distributed.
Another resource I think that's going to be super valuable in the future is water. I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely.
It
yeah,
already is. It already is. Yeah.
I just saw a story last night where they're drilling in the ocean now, below the ocean floor, and getting water that is billions of years old. And, they're thinking that that could be a major source for the future. And it's just to me it's ironic. You're drilling through the sea to get down to fresh water.
Yep.
Right.
Literally millions or billions of years old. Yeah.
Yeah.
And very pure. Yeah, and there was serious talk. There was funding done for floating icebergs down to California and melting them and getting great 10,000-year-old water. Unfortunately, they're all going away. You can't harvest glaciers anymore because they're disappearing.
Well, they get oil that way from underwater.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and they get water. That's how they know there's water. They go down and go, God damn it, we got water coming out of this damn thing. We'll have to keep going or slant or drill or whatever. Yeah.
Well, as long as they keep the pipelines out of Minnesota, that's okay.
Yeah. See, there's the problem. Yeah, the pipelines and the yada yada yada.
Each time?
The scary
Why?
thing is they've been talking about the Colorado River, and it's supposedly within a few feet of not being able to produce energy anymore.
What Colorado River? It's almost
Yeah,
bordering non-existent.
yeah. It's really scary when you see the pictures of how far down it's gone.
Terrifying. And I've lived that for 50, 60 years, kind of seen these water levels go down. And I'm going, God in heaven. You know, and they'll come back a little bit with a 15-year flood, and then the average is down and down and down and down. And there are points of no return on that, that when you reach a critical lack of volume of water, it can't recover. And then you lose a whole lot of power, hydroelectric, and then what, you know? So now, then what do you do? Drill, baby, drill, you know?
California would be in trouble.
Well,
Not only California, but, yeah.
Yeah, no, a lot of states.
this is a question of futurists. How do we tell what's the most probable? Tom, you had your hand up for a bit.
Yeah.
Bill, Zoom says that it cannot select my camera.
Huh.
Zoom has been cranky the last
And it was working an hour ago. What do you can't
Actually,
select it now?
we like that screenshot. Can you just animate it so the lips move when you talk? It would be great.
This is from about 10 years ago. It's my wife went to a thing at the church where they were doing photographs for people for business cards.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stood in line and got one. I think he did a great job.
You did. You look very nice. May I suggest that you log out and come back and see if you can choose your camera?
Yeah, that's what I was going to do. I'm here. I'm just.
And
What's your problem, computer?
Right. If that doesn't work, you may have to actually reboot your computer.
Yep.
Oh, right, I
reboot.
did. No, I did that.
Okay.
Okay.
Is
I'll be
your-
back.
I was gonna say if his camera is external, he could just try.
No, it's internal.
Oh,
He's leaving. Yeah. Restart, reset, reboot, pull the plug. That was always my orders of. You remember the phones? We used to pop the damn battery out of your phone to get it to shut down. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
What are you eating, Tom Walsh? You're always making me hungry in the morning.
He's not going to share.
I'm going to say it's a granola type thing.
So Hoover Dam, as you see in the chat that I posted, supplies power to well over 1 million people a year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When it's got enough water.
Well,
And I don't, we don't know. I mean, because we've been through these 15-year droughts and 15-year unbelievable having to release water. This is in recent history. We got to release this water. It's too bad we can't save it. But the trend is.
They say the problem with that is that the projections on the flow on that river were made way back in the days when there was a lot more water and rain in that part of the country, and it's just not happening now.
They're using 35, 40, 80-year-old models. Yep.
Yeah.
there's all these compacts with the the agricultural, the farmers and the
That's
sheep herders
there's
and
Carol. Yeah, that's the real deal. Yeah, these
and
built-in contracts.
and so they take the water because they think they're entitled to it.
Well, it's valuable.
A major
Of course.
problem is not just yearly rainfall, but it's snow melt. off
Yeah,
the
the
Rockies.
snow melt. Yeah.
There's not as much snow to melt anymore.
Yeah, but a river is snow. It's not water. It's snow that became water.
Everywhere glaciers have just melted away.
Hey, it's Tom. You're looking good.
Yep.
Actually,
I love your tattoos.
Yay! They are actually working. I was surprised. Maybe it's the cream that's being I put on under them.
So they're the sleeves that you pull up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're called tattoo sleeves.
I might go with that because sometimes I have to wear a long sleeve shirt when it's hot, and yeah, I think sleeve guard. I used to wear them at work sometimes to avoid knocking my thin skin off my body.
These I have a bunch. Well, I've got one right here now on my hand that surface blood clot right under my skin.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
A bunch of them.
Yeah.
And my wife complained to my doctor about them, and I was given a cream and to get some of these ultraviolet compression sleeves that golfers wear.
Right.
And I've been wearing them now for 2 weeks, and about half of those little things are gone. And they aren't. I still have a couple. This was from a fight with the thing in the garage yesterday. Entirely expectable, but they were appearing just out of randomness.
I know what you mean. It's just unbelievable. People say, "What the hell did you do to yourself?" I said, "I don't know.
Yeah,
I touched a wall. I don't know what I did." Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But they seem to be working.
Not varicose veins?
Not varicose veins. It's it's a combination of thin skin, old age, and some very severe sunburns when I was a kid.
Me too. Yep, me too. And I also take blood thinners. Not a lot, but I take blood thinners.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't help either.
No. I spent
All right, so it's 8 o'clock.
Or 10.
Or 10.
There's 10. Yeah.
I know. We have to adjust on the West Coast. We're used to it.
Yeah. I won't be here next week. I'm going to be in South Dakota celebrating my 60th high school reunion.
What town?
Aberdeen.
Aberdeen.
Uh-huh.
Good song, by the way. Aberdeen.
The hub city.
Yep.
Oh, if you drive by Madison, say hi, Tom.
I'm ordering another cat trap to capture and release my kitties, and it's made in Belfouche.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
Amazing little company. They don't want to get big. They do powder coating extraordinaire.
My grandmother used to live in DeSmith.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah, that was close to us.
and Stan's people are from Belfouche, correct? Stan on the Mateer side.
Custer, Belfouche, yes.
Yeah, Custer. Yep.
That's on my mom's side.
So Carol, real quick, did you get shut out of Zoom last week, or did you not try?
No, I was at a science fiction convention last week.
Ooh.
And
We need a report.
I did mention that I was going to be gone before that, but
Okay.
you might not have caught it.
We need a report.
You need a report?
Yeah, let's cancel climate change, and we want to hear about science fiction.
Something more futuristic.
Yeah,
I can talk about it after the presentation.
I meant a presentation about it.
So
How about an impromptu presentation at noon? That would be all right.
Well, why don't we do today's presentation on time, and then I'll think about it.
All right, I gotta go out and check on my contractors who knocked out the power in my garage, and I'm telling them no more checks until you fix that, buddies.
I'll start with a little bit of
I have to leave at
introduction.
noon today, so we could get going.
Okay.
Yep. Me too.
Me too.
In that case, today's discussion is intended to talk about climate change, and I put a little background up last night on Meetup with a link to a video. Of course, I took it off my schedule because I posted it on Meetup.
Now, David, are these videos I have on my list in the correct order?
I hope so. Anyway, the background that I was originally planning to start with was Neil deGrasse Tyson
Saw that.
talking about how he thinks about climate change as the new normal. And as I got into it, we've talked about climate change for years. This is nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
The point that he made that was worth starting with is that we have released enough greenhouse gases into the atmosphere to disturb, quote, nature's balance, if there is such a thing, to bias the balance that has been in place for the last 5,000 years.
Okay.
We have biased it faster than it has occurred for 125,000 years. So thinking that nature will adjust is probably questionable, is not at least a foregone conclusion. And so spending 10 minutes to drive home that point seemed like more video for less benefit than I really wanted to take after I got into some of the other things. And this is frankly a difficult talk to give because there seems to be a lot more pessimistic future trends than optimistic future trends. But there are a few points of optimism, and I thought we could talk about them after we put it in context. And so Stan's got a couple of videos that I'd like to start with. The first one is basically that climate change is coming faster than we had expected, than we had predicted. And I think you probably are all pretty familiar with Just Have a Think, but if not, he's one of the more balanced presenters that I follow. Go ahead and start it, Stan.
Dean.
Yeah, this is a technical note. I had to cover up my screen because I had this unbelievable epileptic flickering going on at the top. It literally was putting. Anybody else see that?
Yeah.
About a quarter-inch black line just going strobe effect.
Yeah.
Not
Oh
quite
well,
sure. I think that was in his production. I don't know.
maybe who knows?
Yeah.
He was scrolling. He has a graphic that scrolled across the papers, and I saw that it was causing a flickering effect across the top border of the.
Yeah.
I put a paper towel over the top, and of course that blocked my camera, and then you saw a paper towel. Oh well, technology.
Well, it seems to me that he's trying to accommodate people who claim that there's not anthropomorphic climate change, and they're coming through with a loud and clear, yeah, it is.
Yeah, the word is anthropogenic.
Anthropogenic, yeah, sorry.
Dean, you're muted.
And I don't think that being a Chicken Little alarmist is such a bad thing. You know, if you have a small fire in your house, you yell fire, and then you put it out with your foot or whatever. In other words, I think the alarmists who are saying we're all going to be underwater and dead by 2050 and all that are are a good thing in a lot of ways because they have to counterbalance the absolute deniers. You know, in other words, why not get ready sooner than later?
Yes.
Especially given the possible impact of this continuing.
The end of humanity, possibly, yeah, or
Uh,
nearly. Well, I mean, society as we know it. I mean, mass starvation.
Society as we know it, absolutely.
Well, that's the bad thing, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yep. Tom? Tom?
Yeah. The I agree. Yell fire, stomp on it, and put it out. But yelling fire and chopping down the house is an overreaction. And we have to find the proper course.
Balance?
Well, here's the thing about that type of reaction. This is a problem that develops over a long period of time. And once it's started, it's really hard to stop unless we do something quickly. I mean, even if we shut off all the heat sources that we have generating energy and stuff, it's going to keep warming for decades probably compared to what it used to be. And so I've always said humans are very good at reacting. They're not good at proacting. And if we keep saying we can't do this, we can't do that because it'll inconvenience or make problem for some people right now, I think we're already to that point that if we don't, there will be severe consequences in the coming decades.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That will affect everybody, not just a few.
Yep.
But that's nose on my face clear. Are you done, Tom? Or
Yeah.
yeah, and I love analogies, and you can get a pretty efficient freight train moving really, really, really fast, or a container ship. It takes a long time to turn it and slow it down. And in other words, you better start putting on the brakes earlier than later.
Oh, and another thought, there are possible events, I forget what they're called, that could be irreversible, caused by the current warming that could accelerate the warming, such as thawing the Siberian tundra and releasing all that methane. So those
That is the most. That's the one that scares me the most. is the tundra. And I like to put it on your heart. Well, your health or your heart or your knee or your diabetes or whatever. Hey, at some point, you've crossed the line.
Yeah.
And medical
You're right.
science can ameliorate, but there ain't no cure and there's no going back.
And we talk about climate chaos as being one of those potential society altering trends. I didn't want to get into it because it would take more time than we have, but climate chaos is only one of 7 or 8 global limits that we as a civilization are bumping up against. There's another video that I thought might be worth watching. And this is a PBS video where they suggest that economists and scientists are wildly divergent in their predictions for how big a problem this is actually going to be. So if you want to play that second video, Stan. Dean?
Me, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to turn my volume back up. She was nice and loud. No, good piece. I get a lot of my economic information from Kai Rizdal on Marketplace, NPR. And he had a guy, I was driving probably, so I couldn't write down his name. And he was both had studied climate change and he was an economist, both, And, but many of these economists saying, oh, a disaster is an opportunity. Yes, it is. Wars are an opportunity to get rich. Climate change is an opportunity for people to make money and create jobs. So yeah, the pie in the sky go, oh, don't worry, there'll be business opportunities raising Florida by 3 feet, jacking it up and all that. But yeah, it's alarming. That's all I can say. And the other thing, then I'll shut up and go deal with my contractors. People always talk about that they care about their children and their children's children and their children's children's children. They don't act like they do. They act like I'll be fine in my lifetime. And of course, the uber wealthy and even the moderately wealthy are completely insulated from all this. They don't care if their groceries quadruple in price. They don't care if they got to jack up their house. They're immune to it. And there are a lot of the powers that be.
Any other comments?
I hear water running in the background. What is that? Oh, you got that weird thing going on. Not bad. I can't believe no one has a comment on that. Or does it hurt your brain as much as it hurts my brain?
I'm having climate change fatigue right now. I feel like very overwhelming. It's the sense that I talked about this very early in this conversation before some of you signed on. I'll do a quick brief summary of it, starting with the merchants of death associated with the weapons industry, and then it transferred to the tobacco industry, and now it's transferred to the carbon and fossil fuel industry. And that is that they are in control. They are the ability for us to be prosperous is based upon fossil fuel, and they control the government. They control the American government. The American government is profiting hugely on the preservation of this system to transfer coal and fossil fuels to the atmosphere. And they have no indication of seeing it otherwise, and that climate change is a hoax.
A very difficult story to support as time goes by. So the possibility exists that there may be a way around that. But that seems to be the direction we're headed, and I understand your concern. Dean?
Yeah, I am unmuted. Yeah, and I've seen born again environmentalists, dirt farmers in the Midwest. And so that's anecdotal, but anecdotal when they're not, and they know it's real, the ones that have half a brain. And
Cherry picking your data when you say anybody who agrees with you has half a brain.
yeah, well,
Anecdotal is good for a start. It's nice to have it supported by statistics.
right, but
Carol,
and many of them are smart, but you go, I got my data right here on my 640 acres over the last 10 years or whatever, they can measure it in, for themselves.
Yeah.
And you add all that anecdotal evidence up and it becomes statistical.
Yep. Carol?
David, don't I recall that that series that you have been promoting with Brighter?
Yeah.
That they have a very interesting take on what could be done to ameliorate climate change, including things like throwing rocks in the ocean. Would playing some of their videos in a future be useful?
Good question.
Wait, real quick, throwing rocks in the ocean, wouldn't that contribute to sea level rise?
Yes, but not as much as it would change the acidity of the ocean,
Gotcha.
which would help with other things.
Yeah. One of the topics that I considered for this presentation but didn't get into, will not probably get into, has to do with our understanding of how microorganisms react to climate change. And there is no question that that's a big deal and that we don't understand it very well. And so the scientists are suggesting that we really ought to know if we're trying to predict with any high degree of confidence level what the future is going to look like. But yes, I'm rather impressed with Tony Seba's S-curves and disruptive innovation and adaptation.
And the analogy of the house being on fire.
Yeah. But as these two videos pointed out, the trends don't look nearly as positive as we would like them to. Does that sort of answer your
By
comment?
positive, you mean not too negative.
Well, I was thinking of maybe a second presentation on this that would look at some of the very drastic climate change amelioration things that they propose.
Maybe 6 months from now we'll come back. I'll come back to it again.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm hoping to take this in a little bit different direction today. Tom?
Um,
I'm
Part of
sorry, Tom Walsh and then H. Tom. I think was the order we
H.
were
Tom's
set up
next.
for. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. H. Tom.
part of the problem in this is that back in the 1975, 1980, 85 time period, a international group came out with a huge panicky report about how humanity was going to spoil the planet and we had to do something about global warming. And unfortunately, or not, it rapidly turned out that their numbers were incorrect. They had done some comparison. It was primarily driven by comparisons of temperatures at airports, and they neglected to notice that the various weather services had moved the temperature stations and had changed the thermometers. So, in a couple of places where the old installations had been maintained parallel to the new installation, there were 5 and 10 degree differences in temperature for the same day and the same reading time. Now, whether the new temperatures or the old temperatures were better is not the point. The point was immediately that what is this? This is not science. You are making this up to prove your point. And so then it's been an uphill battle ever since because of that first misstep. I think it's real. I mean, this time of year, I know what South Dakota should look like. I haven't seen it for 10 years. I'm sure it's going to look different. And it's not just the corn they're growing, although that is a factor. I can see by the height of the lake. Tom?
Yeah, let's talk just for a minute about melting of glaciers and sea level rise and such. It's true that if the glaciers on Antarctica and Greenland melt completely, sea level will rise. I forget the number. It's like 10 meters or something. Which is 33 feet, and that would inundate pretty much all the coastal areas where most of the people live. But that's not the only factor. It's the largest factor, but another factor that would even continue on after the melting of all the glaciers is the warming of the water. And when water warms, it expands, and that will continue to raise the sea level. That's a significant part of the sea level rise now. It's less than the melting of the glaciers now, but it's still a factor. And we're not worried just about the glaciers that will melt in the ocean. I mean, as we just talked about earlier, part of the reason the reservoir behind Hoover Dam is so low is this is not getting the glacial melt from the Rockies that it used to, because there's not much glaciers left. And the same thing's happening in Europe in the Alps. There's lots of ways that this will affect the availability of water and hydropower. And it's a broader problem than many people even think.
Yeah. It's not trivial. Carol?
Well, there is also the fact that seawater has a significant percentage of salt in it. Like we can't drink it. And glacial melt is all fresh water. And there are places where that can cause drastic climate change, as, for instance, ruining the Gulf Stream.
Yep.
You know, if we dump enough fresh water into the North Atlantic, the Gulf Stream will no longer operate to warm Scandinavia and England and places like that. And they could literally glaciate over while the rest of the world is warming.
The fish and mollusk populations in the fjords have already changed.
I just want to mention, probably everyone here is aware, but I think most of the people are not. When they say 1.5 degrees temperature rise, that's 1.5 Celsius, which is 2.7 Fahrenheit. So actually temperatures are probably rising faster than many people think, at least in the US here, because we're on the obsolete system of measurements.
Carol, you had something else?
Oh, no, I just forgot to take my hand down.
I've heard it suggested that it would be much easier to avoid climate change than to adapt to it, and much cheaper to avoid it than to adapt to it.
What do you mean by avoid?
To
Ignore?
transition to something else as quickly as we possibly can. Much of that transition could actually save us money, as the fossil fuels become less and less available. We can expect the cost to access them to increase. As technology makes it possible for us to access solar energy and transition to electricity, the cost to do that transition is coming down and can be expected to continue to come down until they become mature technologies.
They're already cheaper than fossil fuels by quite a bit.
In many places, that's absolutely correct, yes. At any rate, the next, well, let me show you, if I can, a report that I came across that surprised me. Clean Energy Transition Review 2025 from Ember Energy. Basically, China's surge in renewables and whole economy electrification is rapidly reshaping energy choices for the rest of the world, creating conditions for a decline in global fossil fuel use. And some of the highlights surprised me. Clean generation growth, led by solar and wind, met 84% of China's electricity demand growth in 2024. And in early 2025, it exceeded demand growth, cutting fossil fuel use by 2%. That's not a lot. In fact, probably not statistically significant. But it was a lot in terms of compared to the year before. From 2015 to 2023, fossil fuel use in fossil energy across building industry and transport in China fell by 1.7%. Again, not a lot, but the use of energy grew by 65% in that same time frame. Battery storage in China rose 69% from the first half of 2024 to the first half of 2025, while grid investment rose 22%. So way faster than grid investment. Chinese companies lodge around 75% of global clean energy patent applications in 2020. I'm sorry, in 2025, while the figure in 2020 was just 5%. So patents went up from 5% globally to 75% globally for Chinese companies in 20 years. That's a big improvement.
I'm reading 2000, that would make it 25 years.
I'm sorry, 20 years, you're right.
25.
No, it says in 20, yeah, from 2020 to 2025, 5 years, the figure went from 5% to 75%. Am I reading that wrong?
Yeah, you're reading it wrong.
Yeah, when you're reading 2020, I'm reading 2000.
2000, you're right. So
Okay.
25 years. Still, 5% to 75%.
Yeah.
And the data in this was largely taken from Chinese statistics, so you can expect that to have some challenges as far as validity. But they tried to back up their data from various separate sources, at least according to what they said in the last of the report. Do you want to show the next video, Stan? The next video is an interview with the editor of this particular report.
Okay. He's talking about Africa leapfrogging fossil fuel in its move to electrification, whereas we keep hearing that China is building tons of coal-fired power plants in Africa as part of their foreign aid, which he didn't mention.
Yes, I have heard both. I haven't heard percentage numbers.
You haven't heard what?
I haven't heard how much the value of those coal plants is versus how much the value of the sale of photovoltaics is. But I would like to suggest that the photovoltaic panels can be bought one at a time for hundreds of dollars, whereas a coal plant comes in chunks of millions of dollars. So I suspect that it'll ramp up much faster in the small pieces than in the big pieces.
You can put the energy where it's needed.
Exactly. In small quantities.
Point of use.
One village at a time.
It takes a lot of villages. Yeah, I got a little bit of that leapfrogging thing. I thought he was talking about leapfrogging landlines, but that's another issue.
Well, he was.
Yeah.
But it was a different
Right. And I understand.
leapfrog.
Yeah. And fossil fuels. So that means coal, oil, natural gas, correct? And peat. All right. But there is a substantial portion of the southern hemisphere that cuts down trees to cook their food, to heat their huts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is that lumped
All
in
for
with,
agriculture.
and yeah, and for yeah, primarily probably for agriculture, if we just
Yeah.
let the natives harvest the wood they needed. But if you get in the dry part of Africa, and then as it dries out, they're having to go further and further and further to get their firewood to cook their goats and whatever, and that is part of climate chaos for sure.
Well, and
Well, and
what-
he also, I think, neglected the two big boosts in electrical electrical demand in the northern world or hemisphere, and that is AI and Bitcoin.
Yeah, let me interrupt real quick. I just heard this on Kai Rizdal yesterday. Um, the biggest single right now today driving factor in increased electricity costs is AI. Period. Nothing else matters. Whatever we do with or without electricity is a rock in the ocean compared to what AI is doing. And to drive, it's not making it more efficient. I mean, it's not less expensive. It's making it more supply demand.
right. And you have to wonder about the plans on the part of the huge corporations that are inking nuclear expansion. I think Google is probably looking at all of the above.
And Bill Gates.
Microsoft, yeah. But they're not very, I have to say, I don't think they're very good futurists. Because we know that a transition like this can happen much faster in small bits and pieces, like one wind generator at a time or one photovoltaic panel at a time. And that can happen much faster than building one nuclear power plant at a time. I'm sorry, I'm not sure who's next.
I think I am. Yes, China is still building coal-fired power plants in Africa. In 2021, they pledged not to, but it takes a while to build them, and probably a number of those were online in the production phase at that time of being built. But also, since 2020, China has been the biggest renewable energy investor in Africa. I mean, since 2000. Did I say 2020? Since 2000. They're building solar plants in several countries. They're also building wind and hydro plants all over Africa. So basically, they're investing in Africa. They have a multi-pronged approach. They're phasing out the coal power plant production, but they're still building some. But they're building a lot more renewables than anyone else is in Africa.
Yeah, absolutely, in pure numbers. I'll defer to Doug if I'm next.
And we're not only not building power plants in Africa, we're pulling back aid that we had previously committed. So we're basically giving Africa to China.
We have economically ceded Africa to China starting decades ago. I don't know why.
Doug?
One of the things that I've read is that a lot of the states, and it gets down to politics, but a lot of the states now are requiring that the data centers operate with renewable energy. And, they don't care if it's wind or solar or whatever it is, I'm assuming it could be solar because it'd be more, easy to put in their facilities. But to me, that's a major thing moving renewables forward.
Well-
If the data centers start being required to use, renewable energy.
I beg to differ because this guy's point was that all of this new supply of solar and wind is being sucked up by AI and it's driving consumer prices up. But we consume the AI. I don't, but I do. You can't help it. Yeah. So his point was that great, we're increasing renewables like this, but the curve of AI could suck it up faster than we can build them.
Well, that's kind of what he means by data centers.
Yeah, data
That's
center,
the
whether it be
quality,
AI or whatever it is. But the point was that it is expanding. They're talking about $3 trillion market in data centers in just a few years, 3 trillion per year. And well, you can buy a lot of solar panels and you can price me out of the market.
I think the way to go for those data centers is renewables, but a lot of the big, Zuckerberg and whoever, all those people who want to build the big data centers are talking more about SMRs, the small modular reactors, nuclear powered. And so
I'm for that.
it's going to take a while to implement, to ramp up production of these SMRs. And so they got to be looking 10 years down the road for that kind of stuff.
Right. And it will drive the production of that. And we'll just have to see how the curve shakes out. We don't know.
And like David has said many times, the putting up a solar field is much easier and faster than anything else right now. Mm-hmm. So it's like Excel. They just put up that one that I was telling you guys about, 1.4 million solar panels, and they have robotic drones that launch every morning automatically and go out and scan all the panels to see if there's any issues with them and stuff. It's turned into a whole automated system, so there's some amazing movement in solar, especially on the commercial side, but the residential looks like it's going to take a bump in the next few years.
You have to say, baby, here, because politics is politics. And
yeah, if the states push that, then I think that will be good for everybody
in those states. And they will eventually drag along the other states by comparison.
Yeah.
Each time?
Oh, well, electricity will leak over state boundaries. But what I put my hand up was the idea of the drones, because not only can they take pictures and see that the thing is working properly, they can blow the dust off.
Yep.
Well, you could do that with a crop duster that wasn't busy.
Not so well.
Not quite so well.
It's much easier to do with small drones than big.
A vertical takeoff crop duster that can go like this.
That would potentially work. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A solar powered vertical crop duster.
There's a thought.
They now have them.
Okay.
Okay, what's next?
You want to play the next one, Stan?
Okay. Now, real quick, speaking of, has anybody heard about the whisper jets? I saw something on this where they're making a jet plane with little tiny engines about yay big and virtually no sound. I don't know how it's powered and all that, whether it could be, they're called whisper jets. I just caught a blurb on it.
I've heard a tiny bit about them, And I'm just kind of shaking my head. You can't you didn't used to be able to do that. Was my
Well,
reaction, but now things change.
one technique is to put serrated edges on the rotors or the wings.
Exactly. The serrated edges. That's the technology they pointed out. Yeah. By the
Drop
way,
it.
Uber is buying helicopters, so you can now order a Uber helicopter pretty soon.
Another thing on the solar side, just for a minute, is the fact that they're now, especially in Germany, but other places, they're using landfills, which have nobody can use them for anything there, but they're building solar fields on them. And there's a lot of property that's available for, that kind of use. So that would be really good use.
You can also get methane out of them.
Yes. And they run generators off of the methane for more electricity. So
You can run the generators at night and the solar in the day, and away you go. Yeah, I'm going to coin a word of it. It already hasn't been coined. I do see some Sino-apologism in what they're saying. And the thing is, China is not all evil. China is not all. But here's just my belief: it is that they are doing this not to benefit their slaves and wage slaves necessarily. They don't care that much. They're just a resource. They are doing it to fund their military global economic 50-year plan of world domination, period.
Mm-hmm.
Just as Europeans did.
Just as we did.
Yep.
Well, we're Europeans. I'm talking European, initially.
But China is not a monolith. China is more a monolith than the United States, and much more a monolith than India.
Right.
But
Mhm.
even so, they are monolithic with some competition.
But his point about they're not just producers of cheap crap; they are amazing innovators of new crap, and it's
Well, and
Yeah.
new crap being
Yeah.
technologies that will benefit the world.
and
about-
they're very rapidly going to renewable energy. And
Faster
that's
than
going
anyone.
to give them a competitive advantage over anyone who doesn't.
Yep.
Sam?
It seems to me that the one company working with TSML out of Taiwan is ASML. Now,
Translate, please.
ASML, the lithography for microprocessors.
Mm-hmm.
That technology has been something that the Chinese themselves haven't been able to replicate. And that's one of the reasons why the West claims that it has superiority. But I think that in terms of solar panel, I mean, China has, unlike Japan, a lot of natural resources for industry. And their shipbuilding has gone bonkers. Their solar panels have gone bonkers. They are the most prolific automotive battery makers in the world. And they're handing us our asses to themselves. They're handing our asses to ourselves regarding their ability to produce the things. I mean, if you could give the United States that facet of quality of output, then you could claim that we have the ability to take over the world. We kind of already have, but we're still peddling fossil. as our main resource. And that's got to be, someone's got to be flipping their mind over at some point from aha from oh God to aha, there's something here. And that's something I hope for anyway.
Real quick, and then I got to go. Yeah, all you got to do is have a totalitarian corporation state, and we could outcompete them with that, but that's what it requires at this point to match China, I believe.
China has an unfair advantage. They don't have to make a profit.
Right.
Whether they can keep their economy going in that fashion is an interesting futurist question.
Yeah, and they're like Google. Google didn't make a nickel for what, 10 years? Something like that.
Well, tax policy is a whole nother question. And
Well, yeah. In China, taxes, the economy, industry, it's all the same thing.
that's an unfair advantage.
One goal, right? Exactly.
Doug?
One of the things that I just listened to the president of Ford Motor Company this past week give his talk about the new plant that they're building in Kentucky, $17 billion worth. And guys, they came up with this idea of building a small electric vehicle. And, it's like, talk about reacting so slow. I mean, BYD is eating up the industry, and they're finally deciding to do something. The one good thing that he shared was the fact that they're also building I think it was, that was, I don't know, like an $8 billion or $7 billion battery plant for that unit. And his idea, or Ford's idea, they sent people to California and they had them in a special secret place and everything. And it ends up that they're going to have a vehicle based on the old Model T Ford that can be used in various ways. It can be a pickup, it can be a car, it can be an SUV or whatever. And, it's like the old Model T was set up where you could actually pull the wheels and run it down the railroad track and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, to me, it was great to hear that, but it's like, aren't we about, at least 10 years beyond when we should have heard that? It just takes them forever, where China just seems, it's like the stuff that I'm getting, it's almost like every day something comes out of China that they knew that they've invented, or a new way to, to run trains. Like they're way, way ahead of us on hydrogen. A lot of their buses are running on hydrogen. And anyway, it's just like the United States, it moves so slowly. And, so we are definitely going to be number 2 in the world.
I guess I'm next. China, in the past and probably still, is a net importer of energy, and that's mostly fossil fuels. But so it's kind of been out of necessity that they've really pushed development of renewables.
Yeah.
And they're doing a very good job of it. On the other hand, here in the U.S., the oil barons like John D. Rockefeller and J. Paul Getty, and more recently the Koch brothers, really control a lot of the economy and politicians in our country. And that's so we've had a different development path, and it's hard for us apparently to get ourselves beyond that rut that we're in. But we need to do it. And
those industries, Tom, they buy the politicians. It seems to be the problem.
Yeah, and you'd think they'd lose influence because of the world situation and power requirements and all that, but they haven't lost much. If anything, they're consolidating power.
Too many stranded assets.
I saw the same production, this documentary that that Doug is talking about regarding Jim Farley's discussion about the future of Ford. And he made it very clear that he and his engineers were in China and they were looking at Chinese facilities. And it's just like, what? Huh? You went to China to figure out how to make cars? Um, that's just, and they talked about having three lines instead of one line and having them come together. And then there's, all these different things. Kind of like, I have to say, that kind of similar to what I heard Musk talking about and how they revamped their lines to a different strategy for different reasons, partially because of the fact that they're also using the extruded frames where you're using aluminum extrusion. So you've got the rear and the middle and the front of the vehicle as three different parts, and the battery pack is part of the middle and so forth. But yeah, they were going on about how they were using the Chinese strategy for building cars as the future of Ford's capability.
Stan, wasn't it? Didn't they eliminate like 400 feet of copper wire in the car? Which to me was amazing.
Well, they've been doing that, and that's another thing. First, I don't know if they're going to go with 48 volts, but they go with a higher voltage. They use a lot of Bluetooth transmission,
Yeah.
and they eliminate a lot of wire. Yeah.
It's often said that the new is the enemy of the old, and the old is the enemy of the new. But one of the differences between the Chinese system and the American system is that business and government are close to united in China,
Yeah.
whereas in this country, there's a three-sided fight between the company bureaucrats, the unions, and the governments. And you spend a lot of time, if you want to make a change anywhere, in trying to get the other two sides to do your new thing.
That was one of the things that Reagan did, wasn't it? Had to do with the
He tried.
union and the air traffic controllers.
That was the first action on taking office, was to break that union.
Yeah.
Unions at this point are less than 10% of the workforce, I think.
We're a country of lawyers, and Chinese is a country of engineers.
Good point.
Good point.
Yeah, I read some time ago, a number of years ago, that we had 10 times as many lawyers per capita compared to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure China's similar.
And I remember Elon was complaining about the California lawyer situation when he was moving his plant to Texas, that he just felt like he had more ability. So, I was kind of pro Elon for a while, and then I saw him going nuts with his chainsaw and his buying of the Twitter. I think
the whole purpose there was to steal everyone's personal data. So he was data mining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to anyway, I wasn't done. Talking about car companies, of the so-called American car companies, Ford, I think, has been the best. They compared to GM, for example, which is probably the worst. Well, Chrysler's bad too. But at least Ford is more forward-looking and open to change, I think. And it's kind of interesting. Probably the most American car companies are Honda and Toyota. They use more American-made parts on average than the so-called American companies, and they assemble more of their cars in the U.S. But beyond that, Ford is doing better than GM or Chrysler in that area. So we do have some people who are forward-looking here in the U.S., but a lot of them are not.
Wasn't Jim Farley with Toyota for quite a while before he became a Ford, the head of Ford?
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure that he was with Toyota.
I used to work with Ford, GM, and all those companies, and I know internally the people, at the time, Chrysler and Ford, GM, they were so uptight about their own people and their willingness to try to move forward on things. And they, it was even at those, business levels, they were really, really upset. It just didn't, and they could see what was happening in the world at the time. It was a lot more to do with Japan than China, but that's changed.
I miss International Harvester. They came out with the
How about
best.
Minneapolis Moline?
Exactly, that's what I was going to say.
No, John Deere family. International Harvester had what I thought was late in their production. They had a new dash, and if you turned the lights down, it was just blacked out except for the speedometer. There were a half a dozen gauges, but you couldn't see any of them unless you turned the lights up, or if they went out of normal range, then that particular thing would light red. Anyway,
Okay. We're kind of getting a little off topic.
Yeah.
David, do you have any more to show us?
I thought that was probably going to take us pretty well to the end. I've got some more if you really want to see something else, but
Well, we have about 10 minutes left.
yeah, well,
I just looked it up. Jim Farley. I'm sorry, I was calling him Mick Farley, but Jim Farley was with Lexus. I just did a search on his Wikipedia.
and Lexus is owned by
The
Well,
Toyota
are they?
brand.
They're the
Toyota.
luxury brand for Toyota.
Yeah.
He was responsible for all sales and marketing and customer satisfaction activities for Toyota's luxury brand, auto brand, from 2015 to 2017. So not a long time, but I think that demonstrates his flexibility and his ability to see the world in a slightly different way.
So we used to teach them how to be more efficient and productive. Now they're teaching us.
Yep.
Well, there was this invention there was this process. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. Time motion studies and manufacturing. That was how to do the most amount of work in the least amount of time and effort, kind of thing. And we
Gilbert?
Huh?
That was earlier. I think Stan's talking about the guy who went over to Japan and helped them modernize their manufacturing.
Deming.
Yep.
I mean, yeah.
So, in terms of the potential, renewable energy has the possibility of making us all more prosperous.
Mm-hmm.
But to do that, we're probably going to have to maintain some of the globalization that we're seeing fall away, at least in the United States, by apparent political intention. We're trying to protect our production of manufacturing of photovoltaic. But it's going to, in fact, make it more expensive for us to take advantage of those kinds of opportunities compared to China, who is manufacturing their opportunities and exporting them to the world.
So the topic of this discussion was global warming. Can you get back to that?
The potential is, as renewable energies start to cut into the fossil fuels, and that's what I believe they were saying is likely to happen in China, and in a fashion that's providing them with huge overcapacity. Their path forward is to sell that overcapacity worldwide. They have more capacity to build renewable energy than they need. And they're going to grow into that. And it's going to save them money over buying oil and natural gas from outside China. They probably will cut into that oil and natural gas demand before they cut into their coal demand. But the increase in electricity is going to give them an increase in energy efficiency, in that electric motors are 90% efficient and gasoline motors are 25 maybe. They'll need less energy as they electrolyze. We talked about, Stan did a presentation on that not very long ago. But first it's going to cut into the increase, into the increased demand for energy in China. And then it's going to cut into the fossil fuel energy in China. And that's going to save them money. That's going to let them use that same money internally instead of externally. And it's going to make them much harder to compete with. It makes sense to me that Africa might avoid the fossil fuel path and go straight to renewable energy. Doug?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just wanted to share with everybody, if you're interested, on the September 21st at Graco Park along the Mississippi, there's going to be an event called Sunday, and it's on a Sunday, and it's an event all about solar, and it's Bill McGibbon, which I'm sure some of you have heard of. He started this, and he's really promoting the fact that solar is, without a doubt, the future, and at least in the near term. And it's really interesting. He also started a organization called the Third Act, and you have to be, I think it was 55 years old and retired to be part of it. But it's, for people to really keep working on things and volunteering and what have you after they're 55 or retired, whatever, what comes first. But anyway, this event is like from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock at Graco Island. And so if any of you are interested, the other thing I just wanted to mention, different topic, the Koch brothers and our friendly refinery here in the Twin Cities, I ended up having their vice president do a presentation on why they put in so much solar. And I said, you might want to pass it back to the people in Wichita that, you guys are doing solar, which is what the Koch brothers have been pushing against. And he said, well, the truth is, he said, we did it because it's more economical to, have the solar panels than use the electricity that's, being sold here in the area. So it was, the economics always comes back into it, no matter, how you figure it. So, but I just think that's just a great example of how even the Koch brothers are learning that solar is and they're doing it, in a lot of places around they actually started a solar installation company at the Koch brothers. So it's definitely part of the future, I think.
I seem to recall that Texas refineries use solar and wind for refining the oil.
Yeah, a good percentage, of the energy here at this one is solar powered now. The strange thing about that one was it got delayed for a little while, and I asked them why did it get delayed, and they said, well, it was all the natural disasters in Egypt. It was that caused them to not get their panels on time. And I said, what's with Egypt? And that's where they're getting their solar panels from. So I didn't even know they were in the game. So
I don't think they are.
yeah,
Try Chinese company in Egypt,
yeah,
perhaps.
I totally agree. We do have a solar panel manufacturer in Minnesota, and they just expanded to just north of the cities now. They've been up on the range for years. And I talked to their president here a couple months ago, and I said, why did you come to the cities? They're in Rogers. And I said, is it labor? And he said, yes, absolutely. He said, we just could not get enough people up in Mountain Iron to do everything. And I took a tour of their plant, and it's amazing. They virtually have one robot per employee. It's they match the people and the machines, and they've got an amazing line, and it's automated, and it produces the panels, and checks them out, and if they don't meet the requirement, they put them into a different bin, so to speak, and sell them for less money because they don't quite guarantee the production, but majority go through just fine. So anyway, it's kind of nice that we got something, but again, that's interesting in the fact that they're actually owned by a company in Canada. So so much for that.
Well, it's like Toyota and Honda being American companies. Well, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
They're local companies, but they're owned.
Yeah, between 5 and 10 years ago, there was some American investors who were trying to build a solar panel production plant out west somewhere, but that fell through. They weren't able to do it.
So there are some possibilities that look encouraging for the future, but it appears that our direction in the United States presently is not on that train.
Right. We're jumping off the train.
Thanks for coming. Next week?
Thank you, David. Good one.
Thank you, David. Very good topic.
Yes.
Not exactly an optimistic subject, but it definitely has its thinking about the realities.
Yeah. You're going to be doing next week, Stan?
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little about what you're doing?
Oh, I'm finding a lot of information about micro RNA and its potential for creating indicators for possible issues with cancer and diseases. I know it sounds like the Theranos dream that was the idea to take a little blood and you can predict all your woes and so forth. But that particular aspect of understanding how to see things early is the clue to what this micro RNA is about. So we're going to talk about that next week.
Thank you.
You.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.